Hello everybody, welcome to Funky's Kitchen. My name is Chef James. Today we are going to make corn chowder. Corn chowder is one of my personal favorites. I grew up in the Midwest. Corn was always around, especially in the early fall, late summer. Perfectly sweet, good corn. Perfect for making chowder, which is one of the first soups I learned how to make. So today I'm going to walk you through step by step how to make corn chowder. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with searing off some bacon. Now, I got the pan already heated. It's very important that when you add bacon to the pan that it automatically starts to sear so it doesn't stick, and also you don't want it too high so that the bacon can render some fats, because one of the points here is to actually get some fat out of the bacon so we can make our roux later. So if you cook this too fast, then you'll end up crisping up the bacon and not enough fat will come out. So we want to cook this nice and slow and let some of that fat render out. Once some of the fat gets rendered out, I'll show you kind of what that looks like. We want to cook this about halfway done before we start adding some of our veggies, which I'm going to start getting some ready. What we need next is a little bit of chopped yellow onion, a chopped jalapeno. You can do this a couple ways. One, you can use the seeds. It's just going to add more heat. I like to leave the seeds out. I like more of a mild soup, but if you like it hot, you're more than welcome to leave the seeds in. It's just going to make it a little hotter. Or you could put half the amount in. It's up to you. So what to do is just quarter it is the best way, and just take that membrane out. Always cut away from you so you don't stab your stomach. All right. So we got seeds out there. There's a couple in there. It's not going to hurt much. It's just going to, again, make it a little spicier. What we want to do is just do a kind of a quick chop on this. All right. So we got our peppers. Then we're going to do a little bit of potato. One thing that makes a chowder is, one is bacon and another is potatoes. So the chowder can have either or both. For example, clam chowder is cooked with bacon fat and also has potatoes in it. So it's really not a chowder unless it has bacon or potatoes. So if you're wondering why everybody calls a chowder, that's one of the reasons why. So you can, as long as you have those two ingredients or one or the other, you've made a chowder. So. I like to use Yukon Gold potatoes. One, you can use the skin, and they're just a little creamier than the Idahos. They don't mash up as much when you cook them in with the other ingredients. They kind of hold their shape a little better, and they just have a nice little color to them, better than just the white Idahos that end up being mashed potatoes in your soup anyway. So again, when you're making a soup, one thing you want to think about is when you grab a spoon, you want to have a little bit of everything on that spoon. So you want to cut everything small enough to where you're kind of tasting a little bit of everything at once. You cut everything too big, you don't really have everything on the spoon, and you're just kind of getting half the flavor you should. So there's our potatoes. Sounds like our bacon's doing pretty good. All right, yeah, some of that fat's coming out of there. It's good. Now about halfway through is when we want to add our veggies, because we want those to kind of caramelize with the bacon the rest of the way. All right, so that's about halfway there. So we're going to start adding our other veggies, which is going to be the onion. It's about one medium onion chopped, a jalapeno, and some garlic. A couple cloves of garlic, chopped up, minced up pretty good. Stir that in, and then again, we're just going to kind of cook that bacon the rest of the way. Let those onions and peppers get nice and tender before we start adding our other ingredients. Now, a couple other things we're going to use is the main ingredient, corn. One thing I like to do with the corn is throw it on the grill. You don't need to oil it or anything, just put it nice on the grill. Let it get some color, some of that char, add a good flavor to your soup. If you have a nice, you're charcoaling out on the grill, it's a great time to charcoal up some corn, get it ready, make some soup. Another is the bell pepper. We're going to take the red bell pepper and roast it on the grill, and you just want to roast it on the grill And as soon as it gets nice and charred on all sides, if you don't have a grill, you can use, if you have a gas burner, you can just use your gas burner. But you want to, as soon as it comes off, you want to put it into a bowl, a container, and cover it airtight. Let it get nice and tender. And when you do that, that charred skin peels right off. So as you can see, that skin just peels off nice and easy. You don't want that skin in there. It's a little chewy, but it's giving this pepper a really nice flavor. So we're getting some of that smokiness from the bacon, a little bit from the corn and the pepper. It's going to make this soup nice and smoky. A natural smoke too, which is good. We're not adding any bad flavors there. All right. Again, there's going to be a lot of moisture in here. So you want to just cut that pepper open. It's going to leach out a little bit with some seeds. And we're just going to take those seeds out. Just kind of scrape them out. I've seen some people take these and run them underwater. I'm not a big fan of that. It kind of just defeats the purpose of roasting a pepper and making it taste good. Then you rinse all that flavor off. It's just kind of silly to me. All right, see how our veggies are doing. So good. All right. So these just need a few more minutes to caramelize, and then we'll start building our soup layer. All right, so we got a nice caramelization on all our veggies and our bacon. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of chopped ham. I like to use a really good ham. This is a Virginia ham. Again, want to add good flavors to this soup, so we want to use the best product possible. This is a really good Virginia ham. So we're just going to stir that in, let all that bacon fat and onion and all that stuff kind of coat the ham. Cook that in a minute. All right. Then we're going to add our potatoes. This is a nice hearty soup, great for the cold weather. The peppers, get those in there. And we're going to start our corn. Now what you want to do is just make sure you're using a flat piece of corn. If it's going to roll on you, you can always trim it just a little bit because you don't want it to roll on you. But you just want to cut down the corn. I'm just kind of cutting with the kernels there, not digging too much into the cob. Coming right down. There's a lot more natural sugars and starch inside the corn on the cob versus if you're just using frozen corn or canned corn. So this adds a great kind of natural thickener to the soup as well as a natural sweetness. And then by grilling it, we added that smokiness to it. So this is the best way to get corn. And now that we're kind of getting produce from all over the country these days, you can find corn pretty much year-round on the cob at the grocery store. So we're going to start adding that in. Don't worry about breaking it completely up as you stir it, and kind of be rough with it in the pot here. It's going to break up itself. All right, now we want to save our cobs because this is kind of one of my little secrets for later of how to make your corn chowder from a good corn chowder to a great corn chowder. So we're just going to reserve those cobs for a second. Stir this up. Again, we're going to get everything nice and coated. Be rough with it a little bit, get some of that corn broken up. But again, there's a few big pieces in there. That's cool because that means people know that you use nice fresh corn. All right, so now we're going to start building our roux and then adding our stock. So what we're going to do is add a little bit of butter, add a little bit more fat to this, just so when we make our roux, it's got some nice moisture in there, and it's also going to add a little bit of richness. So it's just a couple tablespoons of butter. Let that melt in there. And then we're going to add a little bit of flour just to build our roux, just to help thicken our soup up. And I'm going to make sure we stir this in really good, not to get any lumps in there. And you also want to let this cook a little bit. It's always good to let your roux cook for a few minutes so that you don't have that flour taste as well in your soup. This is 1 quart of chicken stock. We make our own stock here at Funky's, but you can buy chicken stock ready-made at the grocery store. I prefer the low sodium just because I like adding my own salt to things, making sure I'm adding my own flavors just so I know what I'm putting in my soup. Just going to stir that up. And then we're going to take those cobs that we reserved, and we're going to stick them in there. And what that's going to do as we boil this soup, it's going to get all the flavor out of those cobs, all that sugar, all that natural starch. And it's going to help flavor our soup, our stock, and just make this a lot better soup. Pretty awesome. So we're going to let that simmer. It takes about 20 minutes to let this simmer. Let it start to thicken up before we add our other ingredients. All right. So this is simmered for about 20 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of cream. This is just about a cup of cream to this, just to, again, rich it up. We want a nice rich soup. Stir that in. Just got to be careful you don't splash with those cobs in there, but again, we want to leave those in there at this point. Let that simmer minutes, and we're going to go ahead and season up. I like to use a little bit of heat to this, and I like Tabasco or another hot sauce that has a lot of vinegar in it, because vinegar really kind of balances everything out and brings everything together. So I use Tabasco to kind of kill two birds with one stone, just a couple splashes. Again, you could leave, if you don't like the heat, you can leave that out and just add a little bit of white vinegar and be fine. Not too much, you don't want to taste vinegar, you just want to kind of bring everything together. We're going to do a little bit of salt and pepper, because we've added ham to this, we've added bacon to this, we've added chicken stock to this. So we want to make sure we taste this before we add too much salt. Alright, so we want to taste this, make sure seasoning's good. Again, everything's cut nice and small, so we got a little bit of everything on the soup. Perfect, just a little bit more salt. All right. So we got the salt in there. Now we're going to shut off the heat, and we're going to add a little bit of fresh chive. I always like to add my fresh herbs off the heat, keep them as fresh as possible, nice and vibrant. You just need a little bit of heat to get the flavor out of a fresh herb. So I got some nice chive. All right, this soup is ready to serve. And there we go. A little roasted corn chowder.